Good morning. My name's Dave Nebinger. Many of you probably already know me. Those of you who don't, please stop and say hi. I'd love to talk to you. This morning my presentation is upgrading custom code to Liferay 7.1. Now unfortunately that's like giving me a 2-pound bag to give you 100 pounds worth of stuff. So I'm going to whip through this as fast as I can. It's probably not going to be to the depth that many of you might be looking for, but hopefully it'll be enough to pique your interest. So the very first thing that you're going to want to have is a plan. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to spend this weekend and upgrade my project to Liferay 7.1. It's not going to work. An upgrade is a project. You need to plan the project. And one of the key things to keep in mind for your project is going to be, not necessarily these guys, but basically keeping it simple. An upgrade project should just be for upgrading to Liferay 7.1. Don't use it as an opportunity to add a new feature, fix a bug, refactor to OSGI. The upgrade project is not the time to do that. When you start taking on additional goals in your project, you're going to blow out your timeline, you're going to blow out your budget, and you're going to consume all your resources. You want to prepare your environment. As a developer, you're going to have your instance you're targeting, you're going to have your database. You have to figure out, am I going to upgrade my previous database, or am I going to use a clean one? You're going to want to get the source code for the version that you're targeting. I know Greg, with his last presentation I saw on using the bombs, there's ways that you can use the bombs in the IDE so that you don't need the source. I still kind of am old-fashioned and like to have the source available for what I'm targeting. You're going to want to get the tools, latest IDE, latest version of Blade. And a big one is you want to consider your revision control. Are you going to branch your current code and have 7.1 on a branch? Are you going to create a new repository for your 7.1? Are you going to be maintaining the new code and the old code at the same time? These are all things you need to consider. I can't say enough good things about the tools. Greg and his team have done an awesome job with I refer to it as the upgrade assistant, but they actually call it the code upgrade tool. Whatever you call it, by any name, it is very helpful in getting your code upgraded. It'll highlight broken APIs. It'll point to the breaking changes documentation that often tells you how to fix what's there. And it has some built-in capabilities to actually do some of the changes for you automatically. So it can save you a lot of that grunt work. For theme upgrades, 7.1 does come with a compatibility layer for Bootstrap 3. So if you have an existing 7.0 theme, likely that may work under 7.1 using the compatibility layer. There's a couple of things you want to keep in mind with it, though. It's a stopgap measure only. It's to help you get to 7.1 quickly with your theme to continue your development and testing on your other plugins. It is not a 100% solution. It's probably an 85–90% solution. So it's going to do most of what you need, but you may find some quirkiness in the presentation. It is not meant to be permanent. Don't expect it to stay around forever. In fact, you should probably consider it deprecated from day one. It just means that you have to plan on doing your 7.1 theme using Bootstrap 4 sooner rather than later. So what is the same, though, for your Java code? OSGI is still going to be there. Portlet jars, Portlet wars, they're going to be there. Dependency management, we all know and love, is still going to be there. Liferay Portlet MVC is still there. JSF, completely supported. Spring Portlet MVC, also completely supported. The things that are different, the list isn't really so bad. Module organization has changed in Portal 7.1. We've refactored a bit. We now have smaller LPKG files with, but more of those that contain the modules for Liferay. There's some Portlet 3 support coming. we're going to talk about that more in a bit. Version numbers, of course, on all of the Liferay bundles have been bumped to a new version. There's some API changes, some refactoring, but overall it's not significant. It's not going to be like going to 7.0. The changes here are going to be relatively minor in comparison. I added dependency management again because through tooling, there are new ways to help make your dependency management easier from a development perspective rather than at a deployment time perspective. And finally, I don't know if you got to see Chema's talk yesterday, but there's awesome new support for modern JS portlet development that is available. So that's awesome. I mentioned Portlet 3. Portlet 3 is in the works. My understanding is it could be as early as GA2 that it's in there, but nothing official yet. But what does it mean to us? Annotations, annotations, annotations. Portlet 3 provides support to use annotation for configuring, so it eliminates the need for the Portlet XML file. So if you're still doing Portlet wars, that file becomes optional. I know with the OSGI module jars, of course, Liferay has already supported it as component properties on your portlet. So this is the official JSR support for that. In addition, the annotations for portlet action and response methods in your code are more robust. They can also be separated from the portlet class itself and wired independently. So there's a lot of capabilities that are coming online there. There's also CDI support. So that's going to give us the ability to inject dependencies from CDI. The plan is to support injection from many different sources, not just from the CDI context itself. I think there's going to be more word on that at DevCon coming up here in a couple of weeks. But there's some additional scopes with CDI, specifically for portlet context. Asynchronous resource requests. So if you're building a spreadsheet dynamically while as part of a serve resource request, you can now spin that off as a background thread so the main thread can continue to do things and then pull everything together at once. There's also the Sexy Ajax Portlet Hub. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's in the spec. Go check it out. Prove me wrong. The Ajax Portlet Hub is going to allow your front ends written in Ajax, or I'm sorry, written in JavaScript, to invoke through the service hub action and render requests on the back end. So you still get the power of Ajax and JavaScript in your front end design, but you can start calling home to your portlet on the back end without having to know everything about the URL formats and what they have to contain and whatnot. The service hub is going to take care of that for you. Some things you're going to want to consider. Leverage the upgrade framework. I love the upgrade framework. I use it now pretty much for everything. Anything from what I used to do in a startup hook, but also for upgrading my code. So if I have specific things that are 7.0 and I want to make sure that it upgrades successfully to 7.1, I'm going to be writing an upgrade process for that. Let the code take care of doing the upgrade so it is not a deployment time activity that you're depending on a person to get right in each environment that you're deploying to. Data protection and GDPR. This has come up in the last day. You know, we've had a few sessions on it. It's very important if you're doing anything in the EU. The great part about Liferay's implementation here is that there are interfaces that you can implement in your own code to plug into the whole Liferay framework for GDPR support. It's very easy to do. It, however, is not yet documented. That documentation is coming, And I'm also planning on releasing a blog on it in the near future. Forms. Liferay 7.1, form support has gotten a lot better. They're more powerful. There's additional logic in place to control the visibility of fields, pages, page flow. So you might want to take a look at the forms and see if there's a possibility there to replace custom code that you have with forms themselves. The sexy Ajax Portlet hub again, and Angular, React, Vue, any of the JavaScript frameworks. I think this is going to be a powerful way to message back and forth from your front end to your back end in ways that we haven't quite figured out yet. I think there's a lot of power and capability here that needs to be explored. One thing I'd like you to keep in mind, this is not you. You guys are not stuck on an island out by yourself, writing help in the sand on the back end and getting no responses. Liferay has numerous resources to help you as developers to get to 7.1 to do any of your upgrade activities. Some of those are dev.liferay.com. It's where all of our documentation is. CommunityLiferay.com, where the Liferay Community projects live. Forum and blogs, two of my faves. We have a new community Slack channel where there's a lot of Liferay folks that hang out. We have Stack Overflow, but please don't cross-post there. You're going to hear from Olaf about that. The blade samples are a great example for how to do projects for specific module activities. We have the portal source. We're open source, so the code is out there. Liferay is probably the best example of how to do something in Liferay. There's Liferay University, where we deliver online video to you at your pace when you're ready to see it on topics that you need to learn about. There's also events like this one where you get to meet and greet and pester, if you want, Liferay personnel to see how to do certain things. And especially in Europe, I know we have a lot of Liferay user groups there. I wish we had more of them here in the US. But community groups that you can form, and Liferay can actually help you out with this to learn more about Liferay and work with people in your area. So, I have whipped through this, and I have 16 minutes. So, I want to hear from you guys. What do you want to know? He wants to know about 6.2 to 7.1. 6.2 to 7.1, you're still going to face the problems that folks did getting to 7.0. It's really the hard lift, is making that jump. You're refactoring your EXT, you're refactoring your hooks to use more OSGI modules to replace that old functionality. You still have the theme that you need to create for the new version. Going from 7.0 to 7.1, things to me are a lot easier because you've already passed that hump. But when you're starting from the 6 series, you have to get across that hill to get your code upgraded. And the Upgrade Assistant, like I said before, will still help make that happen.
What about fix packs?
Fix packs. What do you want to know about fix packs?
Upgrade Assistant, fix packs, checking API changes in between.
Okay. So the Upgrade Assistant is not so much aware of changes that are done in fix packs. However, with the new BOM support that's in the APIs, we're going to release a new, and for those of you that don't know, a BOM is a bill of materials. It's a Maven thing which describes each version of each jar that is part of a release. So we are going to be releasing new BOMs for each fix pack. So by wiring up your IDE to use the specific BOM for your fix pack, you're going to have the versions that go along with that. It's not going to highlight changes that you might need to address in your JSP fragment bundles or things like that, but at least will get you a lot closer to finding those changes in order to make them happen in your code. The question is, do you have to do the database upgrade from 7.0 to 7.1? The answer is yes. There are some new entities out there, some new services, and some modifications to existing ones. But again, like the 6 to 7.0, the changes are not as significant going from 7.0 to 7.1. And Liferay, of course, I talked about the upgrade process. Liferay uses the upgrade process for all of its upgrade activities. So it's a tried and true service that you can build off of. And there's examples you can find out there if you're doing your own DDL manipulation against the database, things like that, that can help you with that. And it's the same services that Liferay uses for its upgrades. The question is whether I recommend using the upgrade tool for 7.0 to 7.1, and the answer is absolutely yes. The upgrade tool is going to identify from your code where it will fail during compilation. But along with that, it's going to point to the breaking changes documentation. And that documentation is fairly while it may be hard to understand at first, it is actually kind of comprehensive because many times it's going to tell you how to change the current code to match what is needed for the new version. Many times it's just a matter of package changes or things like that, but that the upgrade assistant can do for you automatically. So, well, it helped for fragments. It is supposed to help with fragments. I haven't tested that in the latest 7.1, but the support was there earlier for the JSP comparisons.
Where do you access the code right to? In those sources of information, is there a link to go to download it?
To download.
Oh,
the upgrade tool is built into the Liferay IDE. So if you get the IDE, I think it's 3.1.1 now, or Liferay Developer Studio, in the latest version, it is built into both. There were not many changes on the database side. Most of it was on the interface side and support for some of the dynamic scripting and control of those. But from your persistence, it's basically the same sort of framework through the Liferay system. The upgrade tool is going to look at your code. It's not going to look at what's in the database. The upgrade process, though, from 7.1 should make sure that any necessary changes are applied. Because the Liferay is responsible for the table, so the upgrade should take care of those.
So do we have a list of changes in the database module or forms?
Liferay never publishes any list of changes in the database because, of course, you're never looking in the database. We all know that you don't look in the database, right? I would never advocate doing custom queries against Liferay's form table data. This question comes up a lot. Liferay doesn't publish anything about its database, not because they want to make things hard for you. It's because there's so many layers of things that Liferay does in the code that going directly against the database bypasses all of that and actually can have adverse effects in your running system. So we never advocate for doing direct queries or any kind of modification because of the bypass of those things. I understand it's a juicy target, and I myself might have done it a time or two when absolutely necessary, but the official line from Liferay, of course, would be never ever do that, because we support dynamic query and things like that in order to get there. I don't believe you're going to notice any differences from the table structure for your query. But of course, I have to absolutely say don't ever do it, and I honestly try to avoid it in all cases myself when I can. Yeah.
So back to 6.2, do you recommend going 6.2 to 7 and then 7 to 1? Or I understand that there are challenges with 6.2 to 7. So do you recommend going to 7 and 7.1 or right away to 7?
So the question is whether, if you're on 6.2, and I'll even extend that to 6.1, do you need to stop at 7.0 before going to 7.1? And the answer is no. You can go, from an upgrade perspective, you can go from 6.1, 6.2, upgrading your database directly to 7.1. There's no issue there. From a code perspective, it doesn't make any sense really to me for you to upgrade your code to 7.0, because then you'd want to test it. Is it working under, so you're doing a lot of work to get to 7.0 that you really plan on throwing away in your upgrade to 7.1. So I would say for your own code, you definitely just want to go to the version that you plan on landing at. Yeah.
Follow-up to that, so based on our company's budgetary cycle, in the roadmap we saw earlier, it looks like 7.2 is going to land about the same time.
Yes.
Would your suggestion be to hold off and wait for 7.2, or do you disclose anything about upgrading from like a position of 7.1 as we understand it today to 7.2?
The biggest change for Liferay came with 7.0 and the change of how we did things before to targeting OSGI. From a platform perspective, it was a necessary change because Liferay, the monolith, was hard to introduce changes or new features into the system because from a monolith perspective, any change could have waves of impact across the whole platform. So going to OSGI on 7.0 was critical in order to reduce and manage those kind of waves. That being said, now that we're on 7.0, 7.1, all of the new releases are going to come in the form of module delivery. Some core changes, obviously, because there's a lot of functionality that is still baked into core, but most of it now has been isolated to modules. So when they're talking about 7.2 and later on 7.3, 8, those all represent new features and modules and things that are going to be deployed on the platform. But from your custom code standpoint, each one of those, you're going to be talking about two primary things. First is bundle versions that are going to change with each release to signify that they are for a different version, and some API changes. We're not really taking away any functionality from the system. We might relocate it or refactor it somehow, but all the key functionality that is there now that you're using is likely going to be there in pretty much the same form on those future releases. So I think going to 7.1 now is a good thing to do. I personally don't jump on the new release as soon as it comes out. When you're on the bleeding edge, you're going to bleed. So I don't necessarily want to be the one that bleeds on a new product. But when 7.2 comes out, I want to take a look at it. I want to see, you know, are there things in here that I can really take advantage of in my business, functionality that I need, that has been missing, something that will make my employees' jobs easier, you know, all of those reasons. But I don't necessarily want to jump on it right away until I know that all the kinks have been worked out. Yes? So basically, with Bootstrap 4, you have a known set of classes that control your responsiveness, buttons, look and feel, a whole lot of things. Liferay through Clay has layers on top of that that define how all those classes are going to be working. So that's Bootstrap 4 in Liferay 7.1. Now the compatibility layer adds in classes from Bootstrap 3 with the additional decoration where possible, because in many of the classes the names just change, but it's still the same kind of thing. So the compatibility layer brings forward those classes from Bootstrap 3 to make them available. But I say to consider it deprecated because they have no plans on supporting the edge cases, the things that are really different from Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 4. Some component things don't work quite the same. And they have no plans on making it work. And as far as I know, there's no plans on keeping it forever. They wanted it in place because they want you to easily get your theme from 7.0 up to 7.1. I'm not aware of any list. I'm told that it is, like I said, it's like 85 or 90%, so most of it is there. I think it's mostly your edge cases. If you're doing some, I don't want to say weird, but some of the uncommon Bootstrap components, if you're leveraging those from Bootstrap 3, you're going to want to check to see if they still operate the same under the compatibility layer under 7.1. Anyone else? Yeah. No. So Tomcat 8 the support has been kind of deprecated. Of course, the go-to resource is all the compatibility matrix. So if you find it on there, then what I just said is wrong, and I would say the compatibility matrix is right. But my understanding is 8 is like completely deprecated. We do support 8.5, and I know that 9 is where we're trying to go. And most of it falls down to compatibility for JVM issues. All right. Thanks, everyone. Please rate my session. Thank you. Rate my session so Liferay and I know that you appreciate this kind of thing. See you next time.